So welcome everybody. We've got James Maley, Barry Rudden from Sigmar, James from Monster, myself, Johnny Campbell from Social Talent. And we're just going to have a chat about some of the issues that in the recruiting industry that we see with job seekers and some of the top topics. And I just want to have a conversation about this. So we're going to be loose and fast, quite casual. If you have your own questions, please tweet it out on the NEWIRL 2013 hashtag on Twitter, and we'll be sure to try and incorporate some of those questions and respond to you. So the first thing I'm interested in discussing, guys, is a question that's often asked to me by job seekers, I'm sure the same, is how much is too much when you try and reach out to somebody? What's the line between stalking and applying?
Firstly, job seekers nowadays, they've got more ways to connect with employers than they've ever had before. Okay, so previous generations didn't have Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or Google Plus or any of these sort of things. So I think they've got more avenues, and I think they should use it, and it is appropriate to reach out and sort of engage with employers, prospective employers. But I think, like everything, to be honest, it's like balance. It's just a case of getting the balance right.
I always recommend to job seekers there's almost two layers of contact. So if the application was by email, if it was a digital application, then if you haven't heard something back within a week, then to make a digital connection again, to say, listen, did you get my application? Did you get my CV?
Sure.
Now, if you don't hear back after a week from that, I think, Johnny, you're a great exponent of pick up the phone and try and talk to the person.
I think that's the top thing that job seekers complain about, is the lack of a response.
Yeah.
But a lot of the recruiters, just to take the other side, so to give job seekers a perspective of what happens on the other side, recruiters get a lot of applications. And some of the things that happen are, for example, you get the same application 100 times, 10 times, 20 times, and that creates a bad impression.
Do your research. Find out, if there are maybe a few hiring managers or a few points of HR contact in a particular organization, and you're personalizing that contact, right? There's a really important point for job seekers. You personalize the contact, because this, a standard cover letter that goes for every single job that you've ever gone for, that's not going to get engagement. Whereas a personalized, you can show that you've done your research, that this person looks after this, and you can maybe drop in something specific to them, specific about the job, specifically about, look at why you're interested in the company. Not only am I interested in this job, but I've looked at your corporate social responsibility policy. I like some of the things that you do for the community. Yeah. Personalising it, I think, is absolutely massive.
With Monster and Benone now, you can actually understand who in your personal network may be working in that company, and it gives you an opportunity as a friend to reach out to them and actually ask the question, listen, I'm having trouble getting through to your HR team, or I'm waiting for a response. What do you recommend? And that person may take responsibility themselves and say, I tell you what, I'll walk round to HR, I'll walk round to the IT team, and I'll find out for you. So perhaps social media also allows people to perhaps leverage more than ever before people they know, not just on a professional basis, but also on a personal basis.
It's a really good point, because globally the number one source of hire for corporates, for any company, are referrals. You said CV and sending a CV and a cover letter. Are we still sending physical CVs, as in, I don't mean a paper CV, but a PDF document? Or are we in the day when your LinkedIn profile, your Benone profile, your digital profile is what's expected?
I think, to be fair, the CV is still the cornerstone of the recruitment process. A lot of the time the online, so let's say take somebody's LinkedIn profile, okay, professional network, that tends to be a summary document, a highlight, so some signposts in terms of had this job title, maybe not a massive amount of detail. Whereas your CV is obviously that document to be able to sell in detail, what specific experience you have in your particular discipline. The advantage of some of these online platforms over your standard CV is that you can add much more texture to this online. So you've got a link, you're working on something creative, you've got a link directly to your portfolio of stuff online, right? A link to some blogs.
It's the CV, this is what I've done, the link off, this is what it looks like. And it opens up and it allows the employer to explore at their pace. I like that.
And who I am, And I think the days of creating false impressions of who you are, that doesn't work, like putting down pastimes you don't have because you think everyone's looking for them. I know when I receive a physical document, I will double check their LinkedIn, their Facebook, their Twitter, anything that's available. And if I really like them, I might Google them and see if there's anything out there on them. If somebody Googles you as a test, something should come up on page 1 that is you. And when it does come up, it should be positive. So if you Google yourself and find nothing, put something up there. A Benone profile or a LinkedIn profile, for example, does have the power to get on page 1 for your name.
But I would argue that some of the names are so kind of consistently coming up for other people. That don't be too nervous if your name doesn't come up at all, or you have to go to page 5 or to page 6.
Couldn't you solve it by saying Jonathan M. Campbell?
How many people use a middle name in a digital profile?
Put it in your CV. If you Google yourself and there's somebody else competing with that, put your middle initial on your CV. And then if somebody finds your first name, surname, and doesn't find you, they'll probably have the sense to go, I'll try it with the middle initial they put in the CV.
Good advice.
And
That's
maybe
great advice.
that gets you on page 1.
So you're Jonathan P. Campbell.
Yeah. One of the concepts I've heard recently, advice for job seekers, that I thought was brilliant. It was a guy called Rowan Manahan. You can find him on Twitter. And Rowan was at a conference recently that I was speaking at. And he was talking about how every job seeker shouldn't just focus on the skills they have. He said, because companies don't hire skill sets anymore. We're in a lean economy. They hire people to solve problems. So you say how you use those skills to solve problems. If I say my role as a shop assistant is to basically help customers, make sure customers are happy with their experience in our store and get through the purchasing process quickly. I think that says an awful lot about you as a person, and it's much better than I'm a cashier, I work at a till, I do whatever. I think everybody should sit back and say, what problem do I solve? Because if you don't solve problems, no one's going to hire you in any job, I don't think.
Well, that's why these sessions are so useful, because that's great advice. Because every single job that every single person does solves some kind of problem of some kind of situation.
Excellent. So, I suppose the final question then for me is: look, is social media? I mean, it's clearly here to stay. Is this going to increasingly affect how people actually get their jobs in the future?
I think most of us would agree networking has always helped people get jobs and will always help people get jobs. To conclude, if I can sum up on this point because we're probably out of time, is to say that the CV is not dead, but it's not about one thing. It's about making sure you're leveraging everything that's appropriate, and it certainly involves an online presence of some description somewhere, and it involves an offline or an old PDF or document version as well. But it's the fact that people want to have texture and layers to whom you are and your skills as well, and it's best to have that. There's no golden rule, but it's to say, how can I get a sense of who you are, both the skilled person and the person as well.
Show the onion to allow them to peel.
Perfect ending statement. Thanks, guys. I hope you've learned some stuff and enjoyed this today.